Okay, so the name of this panel is Legally Speaking. I like that. Sounds like a talk show, right? We should so consider this our talk show. This is our version of a Sunday morning discussion, Legally Speaking. And I'm joined by some really fabulous business people here in New Jersey who are making things happen. To my right here is Ferlanda Fox Nixon. She's the Chief of Policy and External Affairs of the African American Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey. Because we're running a little behind, I'm actually not going to go into our bios in great depth, but we'll get into some of your background as we're talking. I also have my dear friend here and fellow host who opened up our day, Mr. Citi Medina. Yes, thank you. He's incredible. He just brings like an audience with him everywhere he goes, right? The cheerleading squad back there. Citi is the founder of Equal Space. Everything he does is about diversity, black, brown, women, all of it. He's your guy. And then we have, next to him, in no relation, we have Carlos Medina, who is the president and CEO of Statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey. And he'll be able to break down some of the numbers and what we're actually seeing in the state. So, as I said when we first started this talking, New Jersey has made a commitment to diversity and inclusion. Propellify, Tech United has made a commitment to diversity and inclusion, making sure that there's representation, equal 50-50 representation of women and men behind the stage here, putting all this great content and these speakers this entire day together. As I said, thank you. Aaron, wherever you are, we'll thank you again later, but it really does matter. Why does it matter? That's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm really excited that New Jersey has passed into law this legislation, making it a priority, and that now the schools are also having, at a time when we're talking about taking anything about race out of education, New Jersey has said, hold on a minute. Not only are we not going to buy into that, we're going to require that diversity and inclusion is incorporated in our curriculum. So let's open it up and talk about that a little bit here. I want to start with you. You do represent the African American Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey. Why is it so important and critical, quite frankly, for us to start at a young age making children understand the importance of diversity?
I think it's important because it's all about developing your network and expanding your network and being comfortable with all cultures, all ethnicities, all genders at an early age, so that when you get to be a decision maker, you have a wide net that you've cast so that you can bring the best and the brightest in all walks of life, in all spaces and places into your venture, and that will make it more profitable and more successful.
I think that's a fantastic answer, but let's just, I want to give everyone an opportunity to talk about that, because this is our next generation, right? Our children are our future, and they are the most important aspect, of our community. We'll do anything to protect them. So teaching them how to get along with others and teaching them how to make diversity a priority, I think is right in line with that. What do you think?
I mean, if you're not seeing, you can't be, right? So for me, and I come from an academics background, I've been a professor at Rutgers. Cultural competency and diversity are the lens that which people can gravitate towards content and move through content and actualize it. So for me, it's really important to make sure that not just classrooms are diverse, but that those in front of the education pool are diverse, and we know that those numbers aren't always reflective. Also, the fact that this has come into effect in New Jersey, particularly for LGBTQIA history, I think is really needed, because erasure is real, right? We've, women's contribution, African American contributions, Latino contributions, LGBTQIA, those contributors have been erased and or remixed out of history. So the fact that there's cultural competency and the lens of diversity being brought further into schools, I think is only going to bring a richer experience for our students, and our next generation is going to understand what legacy means.
Absolutely. Great answer. Carlos, what do you think?
So I grew up right here in Hudson County, very diverse county. I think my high school, at least from a Hispanic lens, was very diverse. And those are the people that I still rely on today. That's my network. So the more that you're exposed to people that are different than you, when you're a decision maker, you'll be able to recruit people for your organization, for your board of directors, for your vendor spend. So those are the 3 points that anywhere somebody will let me stand on a box and talk about, I'll talk about that. Because if your consumers are blue, you better have blue people on your board of directors. So it's, to me, it's very simple, common sense. But you have to continue to let organizations know that diversity brings more profits. So the more that students and young children see people that are different, when they are able to make decisions, I think that'll make that process a little easier. They won't feel intimidated to go talk to somebody.
Right. No, I think that's great. You know, I said I did want to get into a little bit of each of your background, and so Carlos, I want to let everyone know just a little bit about you, because I want to get into some of the numbers and the research. But you are a graduate. You said you were raised right here in Essex. You are also a graduate of Rutgers, Newark, and Rutgers Law School in Newark. The president of Robinson Aerial, Inc., a firm specializing in mapping and engineering with a long and rich history in New Jersey. As president and majority owner for Robinson Aerial Surveys, Carlos has developed a sustainable growth platform that has nearly doubled revenues for Robinson since his tenure in 2009. So when you're on the opposite end of hiring, doesn't it make sense that you would train up, you know, the next generation of employees, really? So really what we're doing is we're teaching the children exactly what we want to resemble, or how we want to resemble the outlook of New Jersey's workforce when they get to be that place. You are an example of that because you went through the New Jersey school system, college, and then stayed here and built your business here. Is that why you believe so much that this is critical, really?
I'm a huge fan of Jersey, born and raised here, and I think we have so much talent in New Jersey. So to let some of this talent slide and go to other states, because other states know that, and they're coming here to recruit our graduates. One of the secret things I used to do, it won't be a secret in a couple seconds, is when I would go to career fairs, there would be a line to go to, you know, IBM, and I'd be with my little Robinson Aerial. But I would use language as my superpower, because there were a lot of immigrant students that were intimidated to go to the IBM booth. And when they saw Carlos, they were like, "You're an owner? You're Hispanic? ¿Puedo hablar en español?" Yeah, so there was a cultural nuance, to the point that we had a program at one point where we'd go to Puerto Rico and recruit at some of the colleges there to get engineers and get them relocated, give them a bonus to find housing. Just because tech talent is so difficult. So any edge you could have when you're recruiting, and obviously cultural competency is going to help you, cultural intelligence. If you know that, you know, if you went through the curriculum and you therefore know a little bit about different cultures, when you're recruiting, and you could say something, or you could pick from their resume, "Oh, I see you worked here," you're going to click with that applicant. Where if you're just never had a life experience, or never lived or knew anybody that lived where that applicant lived, they're not going to vibe with you. They're just going to feel like, "Oh, that interview was terrible." So I think it's, for an organization, it's very valuable to have that cultural intelligence.
I agree. It's funny, I was just telling my own daughter that she's a freshman now at Barnard in the city, and we were talking, she was she's just getting started, just semester just started, but she's saying, I'm not sure about this whole college thing, like, I think it's overrated. And I said, you know, where it really matters is when someone's looking at a resume, what you just said, someone's looking at you know, your experience, that one internship that you did, or that one class that you took, or that school that you went to, that neighborhood you grew up in. There are thousands of applications, so how do you stand out? And that's where it matters. That's where these relationships matter, right? And coming out of New Jersey, everyone's going to know what they were taught, and they're going to want to hire New Jersey students, hopefully. Well, what do you think, Citi? You have equal space. Everything that you've done has been dedicated to making sure you're creating this space for equality in the workplace. How can you know, there be a direct link to the school system so that we're recruiting these students that are coming out, going through the school system here in New Jersey, keeping these students here?
So that's a really great question, because I participate as an academic, but I also realize that not every pathway is meant for our community. If you take Black women founders, their founder's journey is significantly different than those who came from, say, an Ivy League institution. that is just as valid. So for me, through Equal Space, we like to participate in education disruption, which is the safe space between academic campuses and our campus. So our campus is culturally affirming, meaning that a degree is amazing, right? Going to school, being a specialist, an engineer, I affirm those moves. But there are other tracks that I think need to be just as welcoming. So we have 8-week boot camps, and we partner with formal education because they realize that as well, that there need to be different centers for in academic clusters. So like we just partnered with NJII for an 8-week boot camp. And that boot camp had the most diverse class, including non-binary founders that they had ever had. And we had a 100% retention rate, which for small business owners, we all know, whether you're a startup or not, you're still a small business. It's hard to navigate education and operating your business, but we retained all of them, and they were able to pitch in front of a full panel at the end of the 8 weeks. So for me, it's realizing pathways intersect, and that we need to build safe spaces for people to move themselves forward, whether it's in Rutgers, or it's at an 8-week boot camp, whether it's trade and vocational, or it's, master's programs. All of them are equally firm to someone's unique journey.
Yeah, I'm going to get into some of that technology in a little while that you guys are doing there, but Ferlanda, I want to make sure I get you in. With the Chamber of Commerce, you are the Chief of Policy and External Affairs, and you lead the organization's policy, government, and public affairs agenda, supporting the success of the Chamber and achieving multi-stakeholder goals. What are those goals? What are the goals of the Chamber of Commerce as it relates to diversity?
So I want to say that the COVID-19 pandemic has really raised the lid on a lot of the disparities within communities of, Black and brown communities. So disparities in education, health, housing, workforce. And so our chamber, we are committed to advancing Black and brown communities, primarily Black, economically. And so I work on policies that help to promote and enhance the livelihoods of Black people in New Jersey. So it could be legislation that might be harmful to Blacks, especially in the area of environmental justice. I advocate to, change those laws, make them better, make them equitable. And so that's what I do. I go and I talk to the legislators. So that's on the governmental side. But on the external affairs side, we do programming to recognizing that people have different paths from getting from point A to point C, right? There may not ever be a B. I have 2 children. My youngest son never crawled, okay? So he never, ever crawled. And so we recognize that people have different pathways to success, and we help and create programming and bring those programming opportunities to people who may not otherwise be aware of those programs.
I have a question that's actually might strike a little chord with people today, but I have to ask it because as we talk about diversity in we're really talking. Oftentimes we're talking about Black and brown or women or the typically disadvantaged. But how do we still make non-diverse business owners, non-diverse workforces, non-diverse employees, I'm talking about, whites that are not necessarily of the minority group, how do we make this a comfortable conversation so that it doesn't feel like there's so much focus on diversity that we're forgetting that the workforce diversity actually does mean inclusion of all?
So if I'm understanding the question correct, and I think we all talked about it, we spend a significant time, and I'm a member of African American Chamber, I'm a member of the Statewide Hispanic Chamber. We spend a significant amount of time, what I call culture brokering, or translating what diversity through each of our lenses look like to our white counterparts, and sometimes gatekeepers and key decision makers, including legislators, right? And it's taxing. It sometimes makes us bring up our own traumas in the process of it. But I really think, and I would pass this over to Carlos because he does this great job, and so does John Harmon, of translating the statistics. We're oftentimes described as overly passionate and or angry, but what Carlos usually does is he smoothly slips in all of these statistics that are like, why wouldn't you be diverse? X, Y, and Z for the state, this many dollars, what's a gap? We don't know that. And I think that I've adopted a lot of that from John and Carlos of like when I'm in a room and I have to make space or there needs to be a significant door kick, I'm like, these are the statistics. I do not understand why you're not giving black women venture capital and they're under this, yet they bring in $52 billion. So for me, I've learned from, and you talk about legacy, right? I've learned from my legacy partners how to translate statistics into a really great culture broker so they see the value, because people value by different standards. They might not see value by my passionate plea for like legacy disparity. That might not be it. But if they see that we are touting the most diverse talent pool by these numbers, sometimes that works.
Yeah, I do like going to numbers, and that was a good summarization of what I meant. The bottom line is, how do we make the conversation comfortable and also make others understand why there is a need to even have the conversation? There wouldn't be a need if there wasn't a problem.
Yeah, Citi said, look, at the end of the day, we're all people, right? So I'm a big relationship person, and I think I learned that in Hudson County, because Hudson County was, I got a hookup. Can you share that hookup? I know a guy, right? Everybody knows a guy or a gal. So I think it's important to connect with an individual on a personal level. So I remember I have a TV show on PBS, and I was talking about Hispanic immigration, and I just, off the top of my head, I threw in Italian and Irish immigration. So a legislator who's actually very prominent in the legislature that lives near me came by my office, and he said, hey, he's Italian-American. I'm glad that you mentioned the Italian experience. So now I hooked him. I tried to say, it's not Hispanic rah, rah, rah to the detriment. I said, we're going through what you went through maybe 200 years ago. Do you remember that? Do you remember your grandfather? So I try to get, hit him in the heart. Yeah, I remember when my grandfather got thrown food at and he couldn't. So you say, look, that's what's happening now. It's just different waves are occurring, but it's the same. History's repeating itself. So then now they could understand you, and that's important to break those barriers. And I never hit him with a hammer. I like to use the statistics because they're very important.
Let's talk about some of the statistics.
I'll give you some statistics.
Say the statistics, Carlos.
So the Latino Donor Collaborative.
I know a guy. I know a guy that does.
I know a guy with stats. So Latino Donor Collaborative did what they call the Hispanic Gross Domestic Product, GDP, for the nation, and then incredibly they picked New Jersey, and I'll tell you why they picked New Jersey. So if the United States, this came out a week ago, the Hispanic GDP were an independent country, we'd be the 5th largest GDP in the world. Hispanics living here in the United States. Then we moved to New Jersey. New Jersey is the 5th largest Hispanic economy in the United States. And that number is $100 billion a year Hispanics add to the New Jersey economy. So that's my new ammunition that I go to CEOs with. You're missing a $100 billion economy. I mean, would you go to a new region and invest and get talent, get office space? You're missing the boat. You're not covering Hispanic heritage, and you're not even doing it during Hispanic Heritage Month. So it's frustrating, but it's just putting the facts and figures constantly out there.
Right, and we can find those statistics. I'm going to have you give your information at the end of this, all of you. I know we're running, we're getting close to our time. We have a little more time, but I was going to add to that women. So I don't know. I'm not a statistics girl. I'm not your girl with statistics. But when it comes to women, because I have iWomanTV, we do focus a lot on the numbers of women, and by 2025, $38 trillion. Right now, around $32 trillion to the global economy comes from women. One woman in the household can impact the decision-making, the spending habits, what you eat, what you wear, what car you drive, who bought your tie, who told you the shoes to put on, what watch, what school you go to. All of that, typically, one woman is the centerpiece of making those decisions for an entire household. And if their parents move back in with them, now you're also 5 generations, from the parents to the grandkids to the children to the spouse. That one woman has that much impact on the economy and on the spending of our household, yet we're not focused on just women. There's not a network until iWomanTV.
Say it again.
There wasn't a network that
was
was
that platform again?
focused on iWomanTV, iWoman.tv. No, there just wasn't a focus on women, and I don't really understand. It's not a CNN or a MSNBC or a Fox Business or news station for women. Why? Well, there is now, but there wasn't. So we're capitalizing off that market. But every business stands to gain a lot by focusing on the demographic and the community. If it doesn't look like when you walk out your door, if your workplace doesn't look like what you see when you walk outside your door, then you're doing something wrong.
All day.
All day. Right.
And what I wanted to add to kind of make people feel comfortable, what I like to try to do is work on having you see my humanity. See me as a human being. I have the same issues that you have. Regardless of our color, we want to have family. We want our family to be safe. We want to be able to provide for our families. We want to be able to have food on the table. We want to have, a roof over our heads. We want to walk and live in safe neighborhoods. We all have the same needs. And so I think from a very global perspective, as an African American, I feel like all my life, that's really what I've been trying to get people to see is my humanity.
Let's bring it down to a human level. If we could real quickly talk about innovation and technology, because that's what Propelify and Tech United really is all about. We're in a room full of, or a stage full of people who are, embracing technology and innovation. How does that play a role in moving our community forward and our workplace forward?
I have a lot of opinions, especially about innovation and tech. Shout out to my boys. For me, the diversity is lacking, except in these moments where I walk into equal space. I believe multicultural perspectives have such an innovation factor because we do it from some places, a place of scarcity. And one of my favorite sayings is scarcity can breed innovation. And so what I fight for, what I see is brilliant ideas that just need watering. And my job as the founder of Equal Space is to tear down the obstructions that are in front of them from being successful. And I'm talking all age spectrums. It is not just out of college thought process. I have founders who are as young as 19 and as old as 54. I was young as 54 because I got corrected when I said that. I'm here for that. Let's not be ageist. And so I have non-binary and femme-identifying bodies in my space. And the commonality between them all is they're unique, they're innovative, and they're just trying to break down the doors. So that's what I look at, and then bringing people, that's why we call it Equal Space. We just bring people into the space to see the sauce. I'm like, this is not manufactured. Look at these innovators, look at these founders, judge them the way you would any other startup, but understand that you need to bet on them. And then I have partners at the table. So I like to see what I have, not what I don't have. And I have brilliant collaborators and conspirators like Propelify who are helping us move forward.
So we're out of time, unfortunately, but I want to make sure that people can find you, because I know you probably have so much more to say. And if any of you have any questions or could use the help of anyone on the stage today, I want to make sure that you have their information. Ferlanda, how can they find you and the African American Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey?
The best way is just to go to our website, www.AACCNJ.com.
Okay, and thank you so much. Medina?
You can find us at Equal Space Co. or equalspace.co, which is our website, or you can find me at CITI Medina, every social platform. Shout out to Jose, who comes and supports me because he's one of my startups and he's amazing, and my collaborator.
All right, and Mr. Carlos Medina.
And we're shccnj.org. And we have two of our team members here that are in one of the lounges. You could see our banner from here. So if you stop by, you could get some literature on the chamber.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you can always find me at iWoman.tv, info@iWoman.tv, and shout out to my team back there, Janice. And we have a booth here as well if you have a chance to stop by. But thank you all so much for joining me on the stage today. And I have a little gift for you, but I left it back there, so I'll give it to you when I come. Thanks so much.